All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Marianne Krause. She has been a teacher for 20 years, 19 years teaching first, second, and third graders. She's been a master teacher for several years, training student teachers in her district. She's also represented her grade levels when introducing new programs to the district in math and the language arts, as well as working with her district on writing assessments and facilitated writing and reading workshops. She comes to us with a plethora of knowledge, and on top of that, just being a great person and just wanting to share her knowledge with kids. So I'm really happy to have her with us and to, share with us, Marianne, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's great. And I I used to be in the schools direct. And I know just in the time that I've been out, the demands placed on students has really increased. So when you think about what's really important for a child entering the first grade to have a super successful year, their first year in school, what skills do they need to have in order to be successful?
Well, they should be leaving kindergarten with a knowledge of print, meaning they should know that print follows from left to right, that sounds make up words. They should know all their letter sounds. They should know that 2 different sounds that a vowel can make. They will learn most of this in kindergarten. They should come out of kindergarten knowing these instantly. They should also have a good idea of the fact that they can self-correct when they make a mistake. For instance, if they were going to put a word together to sound it out, they would say cat, and they would be able to put that together and say it faster and say cat. They wouldn't just have to go cat, like they would be able to just read that as cat. They should be able to instantly tell you the letter's name, the sound it makes, and a word that perhaps starts with it. And you can get flashcards like these and just flash them at them. They should also be able to write letters, uppercase and lowercase, be able to understand that the letters make up words that we read and that we say. They should be able to know that there should be a space between the words, as in print, and be able to follow it from left to right. I also know they need to know quite a few sight words now when they come into into first grade, excuse me. And there is a list of them that you can get.
Okay.
It's called the Dolch list, D-O-L-C-H. And you can access that on quite a few sites. I really like the site called greatschools.org. You can get any grade level sight word list that your child is expected to know. And then with that knowledge, you could make up flashcards or buy them, and then they should be able to tell you the sight word within 3 seconds. That's so if you were to flash them a word, they would be able to tell you that was said, for instance. So you wouldn't want them sounding that word out. The sight words are words that they should know on sight and without any sounding out. Like you never want to hear "to-ha" for the. It's that word.
Right. And that's a great point, because that's the reason why they do call them sight words, right? Because they don't follow the sounding out rules.
Right. They don't. Yes. And teachers will teach them that. But they need to practice, and they need to practice at home as well. Then you can't rely just on what they get in school. I mean, some kids especially need extra practice at home. One good way to practice, well, to go back just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
they also should be able to change to know, like, what I call a word family or a word chunk from the vowel to the end of the word. That's how we make rhyming words frequently. Yes. And be able to instantly put that new sound there and be able to read it. You can also get things like this at Lakeshore on their free site, or on Pay Teachers for free. There's a lot of free options out there. With writing, they should be able to know and write all the letters, upper and lowercase. They should use inventive spelling. And by that, I'm referring to if they wanted to sound out a word, let's see, world. Let's say they want to spell world.
Okay.
So they would go, I say use slow-mo. So it might look something like that, where as you and I would be able to say, oh, they meant world, because they don't know the R controlled vowel yet. But that's what I'm talking about, is that if it's they should be able to do that when they come into first grade, and teachers will allow them to use that for months until they learn how to spell the words and they learn the spelling patterns for the words.
I love the examples and how you were showing the word families as well.
And that's an easy thing to be able to practice with your child on a simple dollar store is great. To be able to just write a chunk. Let's see, let's do at. At's a word all by itself, actually. So you can put a letter in front of it. And I always try to have them go through the alphabet to see how many rhyming words they can come up with. And if they come up with something like, I would say, okay, now if we change that to, they'll come up with words like that, lat. And I'll go, that's a good Dr. Seuss word. It's a rhyming word, but it's really not a real word. It doesn't mean anything, but it's a good rhyming word. And you allow them, of course, to do that because they're using that rhyming sense that they're getting and the spelling pattern. I would also recommend a simple letter chart like this. And what I'm working on with my granddaughter who's in preschool, when she gets stuck on a word or with writing, or she's with inventive writing, of course, I make her go through the letter chart. She knows all the letter names, but I would make her go through and just do this, go a, b, k, and just say the letter sounds till she gets used to it, until she finds the letter sound she's looking for. And I would even do that in first grade with my students. I would say, no, I'm not going to spell it for you. It's okay if it's misspelled. That's okay, but I want you to find the sounds. So if it took them a while, and I would show them several times, and if they really, really couldn't come up with it, I would tell them, of course.
Right.
But this is very, very good repetition for them with the sounds. And it's very handy for a lot of things.
Yes, I really, really like that. And I do, even, from a therapy perspective, there is so much more growth in the client and in the student when they have to think about it themselves to find, how to do it or what the answer is versus being told, oh, this is what it is.
Exactly. And our job is just to guide them to where they can do it themselves, exactly like what you were saying. Yeah. Also with writing, they should be able to write a simple sentence. I see a cat. I like my mom. Something simple. They should be able to know that a sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with an end mark. That also will be introduced in kindergarten and expected in first grade. Let's see. they should be able to read the sight words in a simple emergent reader, we call it.
Okay.
And in Emergent Reader, you can get these free, printed out free on Lakeshore and that greatschools.org. There's a Teachers Pay Teachers site is also another good one. And just print these little books up and help them. I use sometimes with my granddaughter, a simple thing like this. It's got a window in it. It's a bookmark.
Okay.
And I tell her she's a word detective. And I want you to find your sight word "the" in a book. Okay, so we're reading this book together. And she just goes through, and as we're reading, she's looking for the word "the." When she finds it, she gets to ding a bell, or she gets to say, "Yay, I found it. Look, I found "the." And it just gets them used to just seeing that word. There it is. Oh, I know that word. So now when I see that word, I don't have to say it to her. I can say, "the." There you go. That's what it means. I also wanted to mention that in reading, they also are expected to know, to be able to retell a story, beginning, middle, end, tell you if there is a problem in the story, and there usually is, what's the problem? How did they solve it? And if they don't know, go back and read parts of the story. Well, where can we find that? Let's go back and look. That's what good readers do. They go back and they reread. So modeling is the biggest thing you can do for your child, is modeling reading, modeling following the words in a book until you don't have to do that anymore, using the illustrations to help you figure out what's happening in the book. I always, with reading groups, I would always, before presenting a book, I would talk to them about the features of the book, the title, explain what the illustrator was, remind them that the author's the one that writes the words, look at the cover and say, "Oh, I wonder what this book's going to be about," and then do a picture walk where you just go through the whole thing with them, and they get to guess what the story's about. It gives them some background before you start reading, so that and then you can stop during the story and go, "Oh, you were right. You predicted that was going to happen, and it did. Wow, I wonder what's going to happen next." So we can do so much as parents and educators just to model for them. Modeling, and read to them. That's the biggest thing a first grade teacher wants to hear, is that the parents are reading to their kids.
And I love that example of looking through the pictures first, and it preps the brain as to, okay, this is what's going to happen. I love that. That's such a good suggestion. Thank you. I would not have thought to do that.
Yeah, and one thing when I did in guided reading groups, which is a group of 4 to 6 students at the same level of reading, when I would sit with them, I would always go over the sight words that were in that book first, and I would flash them to them, and I would show them to them, and I would have them point to them before we started reading the book. And it's just to get them a little more confidence, for when they see the words in print, and they'll still get stuck, which is okay. But you can go, what I would do is stop and go, wait a minute, where is that sight word? Do you see it up here? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's that word. And then move on. I mean, obviously, some parents get hung up on letting the child figure it out until they get frustrated. And that's not what we want. We don't want frustration. They're going to give up. So give them a few seconds to figure it out themselves. Remind them of the strategies that we use. Well, let's look at that word. We want to sound out the word munch. Okay, but I think it says eat, because of the context in the story. It might mean eat, but you know what? Eat starts with the E sound. So it can't be eat. It must be another word. So let's try to sound it out. Okay, so then they say meat. Must be meat. Well, if I look at that word munch, I don't see a T sound at the end, so it can't be that. And then they get kind of frustrated or stuck, and you go, I think it says munch, munch. Have you ever heard that word? Well, if you haven't, that means eat. So, and that's how I would do it with emergent readers. So
Perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, because it's always nice to know like how much help, you know, do you give them, how, you know, to pause, but how long do you pause and how do you cue them? Give them little hints. So
yeah.
I loved your suggestions and your hints. That's fabulous.
Yeah, we just have to remind them that you know how to decode this word. You know how to sound out words. So let's do it together. And you know, just, it's called scaffolding is what it is. And we just give them a little bit more help. And if they need another little hint, okay, let's give them another little hint. But try to get them there on their own with a little bit of help.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes.
Also, as far as assessment goes, if you're wondering about how to assess a child for phonemic awareness, this I found on, this one came from, oh gosh, I think it came from Lakeshore. Oh my gosh, I need my glasses. Yeah, this one came from Lakeshore. And it's, you can see that it says phonemic awareness assessment. And basically it gives you all the instructions up here and tells you exactly how to record. And I did this with my granddaughter to see where she was at. And it's extremely helpful to know, oh, you know what? They didn't know that K sound. I'm going to work on that one extra hard.
Beautiful. And that's something that any parent can do.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And with the sight words, I would basically just play a fast flashcard thing with them if they were, just like you would with the letters. But give them a good 3 seconds. Count in your head. 1, 2, 3. Okay, they didn't get it. That word said. I'm going to put that. That's going to be my card. And then the ones they get right off the bat, they get those cards, and you keep the ones they need to work on. You shuffle them up again, and then you go back over those. If they don't get it in 3 seconds, tell them said. Put that back down, and you just keep going over it until they finally get it, and they will get it, and then they'll be really proud.
Yes, yes. And that's the trick with reading, that I understand, is that it takes repetition, it takes practice, and it's one of those things that it does get better, but you do have to practice at it
A lot.
Some kids more than others, but that's okay. That's okay.
It will click. If you keep practicing, it will click with them, and then they will feel such a sense of accomplishment. And being truly is the key to school, to success in school.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I do understand that. And even in the speech and language literature, they're really connecting the importance of literacy with the speech and language skills. So we've transitioned our speech and language program to incorporate a lot of literacy components.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, you know, just trying to, again, support that aspect of it. But it's been super helpful to have your suggestions and just to know what exactly is expected. How can, you know, parents work with the kids at home using tools that, you know, are free, easy to use, and make it a game.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Kids
Make it
love
fun.
to learn.
That's important. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, Marianne, I am so grateful that you shared all that super information with us.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
You're very
And I will add the links to the sites that you recommended for the parents so that they can easily access those sites.
That's great. They have a lot of free resources at all 3 of those sites. So.
Okay, perfect. Thanks again.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.